Hello and welcome to the Mutual Fund Guide. It's all about your funds and your returns. I'm Vandita. Shively. Joining me on the show today is Mr. Vijay Kuppa, co-founder at Orowealth. Welcome to the show, Mr. Vijay, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me over.
Yes. So, Mr. Vijay, before we begin with our email queries, I would like to ask you a very general question. It's a tax planning season, and a lot of investors and people shift their focus towards ELSS funds. Now, there's a trick to it. So, whenever you are investing in ELSS funds, either you could do a lump sum investment or you can do it via SIPs or installments. Give our viewers some perspective on it, which would be a better way to go, because if I'm not wrong, then each installment is treated as a separate investment in ELSS case, because there's a 3-year lock-in period. So give our viewers some perspective on that.
Sure. So ELSS you can do up to 1.5 lakh in a year.
Right.
So there are pros and cons to doing via SIP and lump sum.
Right.
The main advantage of SIP is you don't have to time the market.
Correct.
In lump sum, unless you are an expert and you know when the market dip will happen, it's better to always do an SIP.
Right.
The disadvantage is that over your 12 installments, your lock-in is per installment.
Right.
So in the first month, it will come out in 3 years and 1 month. In the 11th month, it comes out in 3 years and 11 months. So it's just timing. But it's always better to do an SIP if you're a retail investor and you don't want to take like market timing risks.
Right. So I think that will be good to go. Another point here is, the number of units, because whatever amount they're investing, it gets converted to units at a particular NAV.
Right.
So, we have noticed, and generally a lot of advisors say that when you're investing via installments, you end up actually buying more number of units. How true is that?
Well, actually, it's not very connected, because it depends on the NAV of that day. Now, you could also buy lump sum when the NAV is very low and you'll end up getting a lot more units. It's just that when you do it systematically, it definitely ensures that you meet your target and you don't rush into rash decisions just before the final deadline. So when we advise all our customers that you plan out your ELSS tax planning right from the start of the year.
Correct. All right, so let's begin with our first email. That's from Mr. Krishna Murthy, who's from Mumbai. He has emailed us. He is a senior citizen, aged 80 years. He's financially comfortable, having met all his commitments. He has a corpus of 30 lakh rupees, which he wants to invest in mutual fund schemes, as he find bank interest rates unsatisfactory. He wants our advice on that, Vijay.
Sure. So, Mr. Krishnamurthy, congratulations. I think you have done a good job getting to, being financially secure and fulfilling all your commitments at this age. I think one thing you need to take care is the risk of your investments because you are now 80. So, one thing is that possibly you can, invest more into debt funds rather than equity funds. So, ratio of about 60-40 or 70-30. So, the funds that we would recommend for this kind of allocation on the equity part is Axis Blue Chip or Aditya Birla Frontline Equity. And for the debt funds, it could be a short-term debt fund, a Franklin India short-term or HDFC short-term fund.
All right. So, I just wanted to know, because he's looking at his age, and I'm sure he must. We could guide him on the equity allocation part, appropriate equity allocation part for his legal highs as well.
Right. So that's all. So usually now, given that your financial commitments are taken care, it's mostly about wealth creation for the next generation.
Right.
Like a legacy you would like to leave. So the equity portion will take care of that. Whereas your debt portion is more for short-term liquidity needs or any emergency that you could have, maybe for health reasons or so on.
Right. So if you could name those funds again.
Yeah. So the funds on the debt funds would be Franklin India Ultra Short Term Fund and HDFC Short Term Fund. On the equity side, it could be Axis Blue Chip or Aditya Birla Frontline Equity. These are large cap picks.
All right. So that was the advice for you, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Let's move on to our next email. That's from ADITYA VISWANATHA from Hyderabad. He has emailed us. He's currently investing through SIP of 2,000 rupees in each HDFC Small Cap, SBI Small Cap, Reliance Small Cap, HDFC Mid-Cap Opportunity Fund, Mirae Asset India Equity Fund, Canara Robeco Emerging Equity Fund, DSP Blackrock Energy and Natural Resources Fund, and ICICI Prudential Banking and Financial Services Fund. He has a time horizon of 10 years. His investment objective is wealth creation. He wants to know if his portfolio is balanced. I don't know, there are a lot of funds actually.
Right. So Aditya, looking at your portfolio, I think you're quite a risk taker.
Yes.
It has a lot of small and mid-cap funds and some sector thematic funds.
Right.
So one thing you have to keep in mind is that when they do well, these will give you very good returns. But when they don't do that well, you can see a lot of volatility in your portfolio.
Correct.
So I think in terms of balance, it's probably too highly risky right now. So maybe you can add some large cap funds into your portfolio to kind of diversify it. And again, large cap you can possibly choose Axis Blue Chip or Aditya Birla Frontline Equity. Otherwise, your time horizon is good. 10 years is a good time to hold equity funds.
All right, just give our viewers some general perspective, like when it comes to sector funds and whenever they are diversifying their portfolio, like how much allocation should they have in sectoral or thematic funds?
So the thing about sectoral funds is that they work based on the macro theme of that moment. Like for example, there was a time when infrastructure funds were doing very well. There is a time when FMCG does well. But if you get it wrong, then for many years you can see underperformance. So retail should typically not diversify via sector funds route. It's better to diversify into debt funds.
Correct.
Sector funds should be left to the experts who can time the sector movement.
Right.
So it's preferably not for retail.
Yes. So any kind of index fund that you would recommend?
On the sectors?
No, not on the sectors, like generally.
Yeah. Most of the AMCs have index funds. So HDFC has an index fund, Aditya Birla Nifty index fund. Then you can also go for a Nifty 100 index fund. So all these are available.
All right. I think that gives him a good idea of how you should be creating your wealth and how you could build your corpus. That was coming from our expert, Mr. Vijay. Let's move on to the next email. That's from Raghu Ram, who's from Tirupati, Andhra Pradesh. He has also emailed us. He's 34 years old. He invested through lump sum of 39 lakh rupees in HDFC Balanced Advantage last year. He is reinvesting his dividend through SIP in HDFC Mid-Cap Opportunity, HDFC Small Cap, ICICI Prudential FMCG and ICICI Prudential Exports and Services Fund. There's too many sectors. His time horizon is 4 years. He's asking, is he on the right path? And he needs your suggestion on that.
Well, I think again it's a similar question as to the previous one. There are a lot of mid-cap and sector funds in this, and this time the time horizon is little lower. It's only 4 years. Normally we recommend this to 5 and above only. So maybe it may not be fully suitable for you. The next thing is, he said he's investing his dividends into an SIP. Now the thing with dividends is they're only declared if the fund is profitable. So it can happen that many SIP installments can be missed. So rather than doing it in this route, it's advisable that he sets up an SIP or an STP in this case, away from a lump sum fund into an SIP, systematically into the other funds. Just take care that you are over your exit load and your tax implications, because when you do an STP, you need to take care of that.
Right, and there are different kinds of STPs, if I'm not wrong.
Right, different frequencies. So you could do like a weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly STP. What they do is they just systematically transfer. It's like a systematic switch. Just as an SIP systematic lump sum.
But in the same fund house.
In the same fund.
In the same fund house. So I think that would be the perspective for him. All right, so that was for you. That's how you could nurture your portfolio. Let's move on to the next email. That's from Ram. His age is 28 years and he is currently investing via SIP of 5,000 rupees in Axis Blue Chip, ICICI Prudential Blue Chip, 3,000 rupees in Motilal Oswal Multicap 35, Mirae Asset India Equity Fund, and 1,500 rupees in HDFC Small Cap, L&T Emerging Businesses, and Reliance Small Cap Fund. Well, his age is 28 years and he's from Chennai, and he has started investing in the funds that we just mentioned above. And all are like direct funds with growth option. So what do you recommend him?
So I think I'd like to congratulate Ram for choosing direct funds as an option. I think they are the better way to go through. In terms of funds, I think he has got a fantastic selection of funds. He's also got an excellent time horizon. Small caps are supposed to be held for very long term, which he is doing. Maybe what I can suggest is, in some of the funds he can consider shifting out to, especially in the multi-cap space. He can look at Kotak Standard Fund and also Parag Parikh long term. It's just that again it's all equity, and even though your time horizon is good, you just need to ride out the volatility that he can face. So you just need to take care of that, but otherwise you're on an excellent path.
Okay, so fund selection is good, the portfolio looks good, he needs to rebalance it, maybe like no rebalancing, but he needs to check, keep checking.
Yes.
Like every year.
That's right,
yearly.
because it's a long horizon. Not all funds tend to perform over such a long time horizon. So maybe every couple of years he needs to relook it and keep changing into the best performing funds.
Right. So that was for you, Mr. Ram. All the very best with your investment journey. Let's move on to the next email. That's from Mr. Dev. Dev has recently started investing through monthly SIP in the following mutual funds, which I'm going to tell you. So he has invested 15,000 rupees in 3 funds, which are ICICI Prudential Blue Chip, Reliance Large Cap Fund, and Axis Focus Fund, Axis Focus 25 Growth Plan, basically. He has also invested 15,000 in Mirae Asset Emerging Blue Chip, again the growth plan option here. He has also invested 20,000 in 2 funds, which are Kotak Standard Multi-Cap and HDFC Small Cap Fund. 10,000 in SBI Small Cap. Well, these are the surplus funds that he has been investing, and he's an aggressive investor. Let me mention that here. He plans to stay invested for 5 to 7 years, not beyond that. Well, from January onwards, he plans to amp up his SIPs in the following. So he plans to amp up his SIPs in ICICI Prudential Blue Chip Fund, Reliance Large Cap Fund, Axis Focus 25 Fund, Kotak Standard Multi-Cap Fund, Mirae Asset Emerging Blue Chip Fund, HDFC Small Cap, SBI Small Cap, and Franklin India Prima Fund. So what are you suggesting?
So just looking at it, I think it's quite a number of funds.
Actually.
So maybe the user can, look at the portfolio allocation and see whether they're truly diversified.
Right.
So often users make this error that just taking a lot of funds, it means that they're diversified, but that's not always the case.
Right.
So it's better to look at the scheme information document and properly allocate his funds.
Right.
Regarding Dev's particular portfolio, I would say that the time horizon may be a little short, just about 5 to 7 years. Maybe if he can extend that, that would be great. If not, then best way to diversify is if he can add some debt. So I see debt funds are missing in his portfolio. So some amount of debt to carry him through some volatile equity times. And just that he needs to take care of volatility that he can face. That's it. Otherwise, he's doing good.
Otherwise, you think, but the portfolio allocation is just
It's fine, yeah, because it's across so many, it's truly diversified.
Yeah, it's truly diversified. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Vijay. It was indeed a pleasure. That's all for this edition of the Mutual Fund Guide. Viewers, save, invest, prosper with the right guidance right here on Business Television India. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more news and updates on the other side.